There are many businesses out there that are really looking for the help, because where we think it's simple to be like, here's a strategy based on your goals, and now let's post, or let's create an email, or let's set some paid ads, that doesn't come natural to them. Your website is either your best salesperson or your laziest employee. And Google Analytics is going to tell you which it is. I think if you're starting very, very small, you don't have to have all the fancy things. If you think you're not going to use AI, I mean, your business is going to be left, because AI is everywhere right now. Get paid what you're worth and know that it's okay. You are putting a lot of effort into it, especially when you're an entrepreneur. It is not a 9 to 5, so don't sell yourself short.
We are going to absolutely nerd out today, and we're going to be talking about all things marketing, agency building. So super excited to have you here. Before we jump in and talk about your business, how you grew it, what you do, how you do it, can you give us a quick origin story? How did you get into marketing? I understand you're a military wife. You've been traveling around from Hawaii, so aloha to you. Give us the whole story.
Yeah, I spent 20 years in the restaurant business back home in Oahu, and met my husband, who was in the military, and off we went to the middle of the United States, to Louisiana. And I realized I needed to do something that wasn't restaurant related because of the area we were in. And I had a former colleague back in Hawaii say, hey, do you want to help me run socials and take care of our website? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Flip my hair. And that was supposed to just be temporary, but it turned into, obviously, 10 years later, here we are. And I grew the business to have a marketing company where I would have never thought that. If you had talked to me 20 years ago and said, hey, you're going to be helping people on the marketing side of their businesses versus being in the operations side of it, I would have been like, you're crazy. That's not happening. I'm too dedicated to operations.
Wow. Okay. So what kind of led the transformation then from 20 years in restaurants and operations to being able to do marketing? Did you start small and scale it up?
Yeah, I think it was interesting. We always joke, especially in the military spouse entrepreneur kind of world, you fall into it accidentally. Well, isn't almost every entrepreneur, sometimes it's accidental what you do. But yeah, I fell into it accidentally. I thought I don't know what I thought I was going to do. I think I was waiting for a restaurant that made sense to come along, but it didn't. And I just progressively started with one client. He referred me, then I had two. Then I was like, oh, I can do something with this, and sending invoices was a hysterical. I was like, wait, shouldn't I just sign onboarding papers with you and you take my taxes out? And I mean, it was a whole new world, right? When you are running every single part of your business. So yeah. And here we are. Like I said, it's been fantastic to just have clients all the way from Hawaii to Virginia in all realms of their business. And I think this is what I love about marketing, is kind of seeing how we can showcase what they do best out in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So you started out, it sounds like, were you like kind of doing like organic posting on social media? Was that really
Yes.
your first
Yeah.
task?
That's where it started. It was just organically posting on social media, creating email blasts for this particular restaurant, right? To kind of showcase events that they were having. And then website maintenance, like just making sure we were updating the website with new blogs or just events that they wanted to add to make sure. And that's when I realized, oh, there's a little bit more to this, right? Than just organic marketing, I guess is what you want to say, right? And so I kind of took the opportunity to learn more about how we could do more than just that. And I think my first client was, and still my client today, is so fantastic. And they're the reason why I've been able to test things out, showcase how this new marketing tool can really help them, how paid ads can grow their business in a different way than they thought, and using Google Analytics, like just to measure how all of that was working. I
How
mean,
did
the list
you,
goes on.
yeah, I mean, there's so many different avenues to marketing. So
Mhm.
when you were first starting out, were you self-taught? Were you YouTube University? Did you have mentors or anything? Like
Yep.
when you mentioned paid ads, did you teach yourself how to run Facebook ads or Google
Yeah.
ads?
You nailed it. It was YouTube University, and I joined a Facebook group with a popular, social media guru gal. And I just was like, oh, I need to learn how, or the whys to this posting, and so yeah, I wish I could tell you I spent 4 years in a nice college and walked out with a diploma and a cap and gown, but that's not how it happened. It really was self-taught.
Yeah. I find that most college graduates don't know their bump from their elbow when it comes to marketing.
Yeah.
So they might have a
Yeah.
lot of high level strategies on the top of their
Right.
noodle, but when it comes to actual tactics and
Yeah.
technician, they're not coming from
Yeah.
college. It's
Yeah.
it's self-taught and learning from those who are
No.
doing it out in the world. So, um,
Seriously. I jokingly call it like it's like we're from the streets. Like, you know what I mean? We've been
yeah,
in it. We
the marketing
it's dirty.
streets. This is the marketing hood. That's where we come
Yeah.
from.
Exactly.
That's great. All right, so you're starting to get this business off the ground. When did you realize that you have, I don't know, my words, but maybe the ticket to freedom or to the life that, isn't being
Yeah.
tied, especially to a restaurant, which those hours are nuts. When did you
Yes.
first realize that? And then what were your next steps to kind of start taking your business to the next level?
I know this is going to be a crazy story, but I think it was I had some kind of weird thing happen to my face. And so I had to go into the hospital and I was there for a couple of nights. I was there with my laptop, still communicating with my client. And he's like, "You're in the hospital. We're fine. We can wait." And I was like, "Oh my God, I can take my business legit anywhere, anytime with what I'm doing, and I can still function and work." And so that was a realization to me that this was something that I knew I was going to really uh, find useful to me, especially like in the military life world. They're constantly moving. And so, you're, if you have a brick and mortar job, you're quitting, then you're reapplying, you're hoping you get hired. And then, but this job, I can take it anywhere despite all the moves and I can still do my job. And I think that's the realization in a hospital of all places.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, what were your next moves to start scaling? Who are your next clients? Were they more restaurants, or did you start expanding into different businesses?
Yeah, again, it was all accidental. And I think, I want to give some kudos to this group. I did network within there and made other social media colleagues. And so by referral, I got into pool companies of all things and started helping multiple pool companies with their marketing building websites. Then I landed a violin shop and a lot of nonprofits. I kind of fell into sharing my expertise and helping them kind of, obviously with their little funding that they have, but helping elevate their message and their mission. Before I knew it, I was constantly on my phone, constantly on the computer from the time I woke up until I passed out with the phone on my head. My husband's like, "Can he's 9 to 5, right? So he's like, "Don't you clock out?" And I was like, I don't know if I can. I got a couple businesses here that I'm dedicated to, And so yeah, that scale was surprising but it also showed me that there are many businesses out there that are really looking for the help because where we think it's like simple to be like, here's a strategy on based on your goals that you want people to see. Now let's post or let's create an email or let's, set some paid ads. That doesn't come natural to them. And so they do kind of just that, I don't know, I'll throw something here and I'll do something here. And that's when I realized I can get business anywhere. And it's been awesome. It's been an awesome ride.
Were you referral based starting out? Did you have enough referral business coming in to scale, or were you doing a lot of outbound marketing for yourself?
No, honestly, it was mostly referral. And I think, we talk about this where I'm very fortunate that a lot of my clients, some are not willing to share you because you're so valuable to them. They don't want you to leave, right? But I've had some great clients where I said, "Hey, our rates are going up. I'm happy to stay with you, but I want to make sure." And they're like, "No, we got it. You're worth your weight in gold." And so yeah, luckily I haven't had to. I usually use my outbound engagement just to kind of share tips and tricks and to kind of network.
Mm-hmm. All right, so
So
let's
yeah,
zoom back out and kind of look
yeah,
at the business today. Where does it stand today?
mhm,
If you're willing to chat,
yeah.
approximate top line, and I'd love to talk about your team or kind of how you do your fulfillment.
Yeah. So I'm lucky and blessed to have a very small team. Before I used to think it was like embarrassing to say this, but I was like, I was able to hire my sister and another family member, and they've been part of my team for a couple of years. We've been able to travel to see clients to multiple places. And so I'm grateful. I think there was goals when I first started setting out, right? You were like, I want these 5,000 months, 10,000 months, 30,000 months, right? And I also realized I don't want to burn myself out because we are still very small. And I think I had said to myself, like, I know what it means when I grow big. That means the team gets bigger. I don't know if I want to go there. So I've got our team to a nice place where we're comfortable, where they can still work remotely. One is in California, the other is in Pennsylvania. And so they're all also moms. And so they're able to make a little more income, and kind of find some purpose. And they love, I encourage them. They come into meetings with our clients. I want them to feel important and part of the team and not just you do this and you get this copy sent and, blah, blah, blah. So I don't
Hmm.
know if that answered your question, but I hope it did.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so what does a typical engagement look like? Is there, name your business here and they come to
Mhm.
you, and does it start with they have a website problem and then you discover they have ads problems and social
Yeah.
problems? And what does the typical engagement look like?
Yeah. So usually it's like, hey, such and such said I needed to connect with you. And I'm like, cool. Mostly it will start with, I have a website question, right? And then it leads to, oh, you mean so marketing and the website are connected?
Yeah.
And then they're like, there's more services that they're like, I don't need to go talk to another person. So a lot of the conversation does start with, my website is doing wonky things and I don't know if I need to do this or that, or my website has been hacked and I don't know what to do next. I don't know who I should be calling. And that's usually the engagement, is it's a website question, which always then leads to marketing. Because I think, again, right, it's their business owners doing what they do best of their business, and marketing is its own little beast, and so they don't realize how all the things play together. And so I come in and I educate them, and I want to be like, did you know you could do this together with
Hmm.
that? And they're like, what? Okay. And then they're like, you know what, I'm just going to hire you to do it. I thank you for educating me with no ulterior motives. And so it's been good. And it's interesting with one of my bigger clients, we have companies that poach him, for these $10,000, $20,000 services a month kind of a price tag, right? And I sit in the meetings with them and I'm like, oh, wait, you just promised him things that you can never promise and you get to charge him $20,000? That's crazy. So anyway, my clients have really appreciated my honesty. And so that's where we are. That's how the engagement starts usually.
Okay. How did you get into web development?
Purely by accident. I was a mommy blogger way back in the day. I am going to say I just recently turned 50. So if you are of my age and you remember blogger.com back in the early 2000s, I started writing there and I always wanted to bougie up my website. I didn't want a plain website. So I always like did the extra things. And so you fast forward to, I've moved to Louisiana now. I'm not doing my job, and I focused on my mommy blog and I put it on WordPress.org, not .com. And most marketers or people will understand the difference. And
Hmm.
I built my own website crying all night. Like it is so hard. But I put my mommy
Hmm.
blog up there and I was really proud of it and I really enjoyed it. And then one of the groups, the Facebook groups, one of the girls, she loved my website and she brought me in and said, hey, I have a pool company that needs a new website. And I was like, you want me to build somebody else a website? That was scary. But I did it and he loved, actually, I don't even know if you can swear on this podcast, but I
Hmm.
won't. But he was from California and he was like, I effing love this I love my website. And that's what you want, right? Because if you're so excited about how your website looks, you're going to share it as much as possible.
Hmm.
And so, but anyway, accidental again, Brian, of how I even got into website development and helping others. And again, I still think, oh, this is common knowledge. I'm sure you'll be fine. And, I have friends that were like, I can't. I open up the back end of whatever, it could be Wix, Squarespace, and they are very, very overwhelmed. And
Hmm.
so, but to me, I'm like, ooh, it's just a different language. Let's see what you need. Let's fix how you need to fix things. And that's the long story to how web development became part of my main offering and what I love to do.
So what all do you manage in a typical client engagement? Does it vary from, website to, I don't know, Google profiles or Facebook items,
Yeah.
or is there a full package, a medium package, and some people just need you
Yeah.
for website only? What does that look like?
Yeah, I do have a range. So I have some that are just website maintenance clients. And then there are some that do have a full package, like, hey, manage my website, do all of our, page editing and updates, along with our marketing toolkit, right? Which can range from basic social media of Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, Pinterest, even, right? And then email marketing and but it's a wide range. And a lot of clients will start with just a small package and then again realize, oh, okay, you've mentioned this could make sense to our business. Let's give it a go. And they've given it a go, and we're still working to this day.
Are you involved heavily in the fulfillment once a client deal is won? Like, are you still building the websites, or are you writing the ads, or what does your structure look like?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like I mentioned earlier, we keep it small, and I don't know if it's because I maybe I don't have a trust factor of bringing, if I pull somebody in, I really want them to get the experience that I sold them on, and so we keep it in a manageable place for us in this company just so that I want the longevity of a client. I don't want just a one and done. And I think just ethically and morally, I just want people to be happy. They decided to spend their money on my business. And I know how hard it is to work for that money. And so, and I think because of that, that's why I do get a lot of referrals, right? So I do. I'm, I would love to say I'm like 75% in there. I'm sure my team is like, we got this, get out of here,
Hmm.
because they're
Hmm.
great. But yeah, no, I really still enjoy being in it. One day, though, I'm going to be on an island just drinking a Mai Tai, just receiving text messages saying, all is well.
Yeah,
Continue
there
on.
you go. I love it. What about pricing,
Hmm.
especially from the get go? How did
Hmm.
you wrestle or maybe not wrestle with pricing, and how has it
Yeah.
evolved, and what does it look like today?
Yeah. I can tell you the very first time that I had to come up with a price was when I did get hired by my first client. And I honestly, in my head, thought, okay, I'm going to onboard with them. I'll fill out all my tax forms. And when the owner said, hey, send me over your packages, I'll pick something and then we'll go from there. Right. And I was like, huh? In my head, like it didn't click. Right. And I go home and I'm talking to my husband and I'm like, what would I even charge for what I just sold him on? I don't know. We were Googling and I'm showing my husband, I'm like, look, this. He goes, they would pay you that much? Right. And so I did what I kind of went with what I found in the Google 10 years ago. And I did three packages. And I honestly thought, he would pick the middle package. But the owner was like, oh, I'll pick the highest package and I want to do an add on. I want you to do this for us. Is that something you can do? And I was like, uh huh. Yeah, no problem. And so again, it was a lot of learning right in the beginning stages because it was super accidental that I fell into this. And I was like, okay. And so from there, I realized, okay, we can charge a little bit more. And so maybe the next client that I had, got a little bit of a raised price just so that I could kind of, you know, get paid what you're worth and know that it's okay. And so it's just been like that and scaling up. And sometimes I'm still like, that's so much. And then they come back and they're like, paid, invoice, done. What's first steps, So
Hmm.
yeah, and I think it is, you just have to do a lot of research and you have to be confident and you have to send them a price and you have to tell yourself that you are worth it. You are putting a lot of effort into it, especially when you're an entrepreneur. It is not a 9 to 5. So don't sell yourself short.
So, how do you currently price like a new website build? Let's say it's your
Hmm.
average 10-page WordPress website build.
Yeah.
Do you have a very specific formula you follow to price that, or is it based on the client and their needs, or what does that look
Yeah.
like?
So it is customizable because every client has been different. And so you can't just say, oh, this 5 page website equals this. So I'm part of this website WordPress group, the admin bar. And I love this guy. He is so fantastic. And his is probably one of my most favorite Facebook group to be a part of for website developers. And he created this for complexity. And I really appreciate it. So I use that sometimes just to also remind myself, hey, this complex thing equals a little bit more money because you're putting in a little bit more effort. So it does range again. based on how complex that they want. If they want an e-commerce store, that's a lot more money. If they want a membership site, that's a little bit more money. If they want something special that formulates and does all the fun things with the blog, that's a little bit more money. So, and I think it's knowing what that is helps you with your pricing.
You mentioned analytics at the onset here. Let's kind of talk about the importance of Google Analytics. I think
Yes.
like a lot of times when we bring on a new client, especially if they're a smaller business, you bring up Google Analytics and they're like, Google what? And I'm
Yeah.
like, do you track anything on your website? Do you have any
Yeah.
idea about your numbers? And they're
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about
No,
Google
yeah.
Analytics. How important is that in your
Yes.
business?
No, 100%. I think when you said small businesses, right? I've had clients say to me, I'm just a small business. Why should it matter? And I'm like, oh, no, it can matter. And then we explain how, right? So I think Google Analytics, it's either, your website is either your best salesperson or your laziest employee,
Hmm.
right? And Google Analytics is going to tell you which it is. And so I think that's what, again, I'm getting so excited because I do geek out. And we talked about this earlier, how you and I love data and how the data really does help you, especially in marketing. We just did like a recent monthly campaign with our biggest client, and just looking at the data from Google Analytics and the Google Ads reporting, he was like, oh, this did this and this equaled this. And he could actually measure it with the sales on the day of during some of these spikes that he was seeing in the report. And he knows he can relate that to the efforts by having the Google Analytics to track stuff like that, to see what buttons were being pushed on. And he geeks out too, but he didn't realize like digitally that's what Google Analytics could give him and his team, right? And he went
Hmm.
back with some renewed, like, this is what happened. This is what we did. Let's do it
Hmm.
again,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Do you guys run a lot of Google search ads or like Facebook campaigns?
Yeah. So, I mean, like in in comparison, maybe you run a lot more than I do, but every client has had an opportunity. They've done Facebook ads. We've realized that Google for most of our clients was more effective when we've done kind of the testing of both either doing the meta or doing that. And so a lot of ours do the Google search campaigns, which we love. And we did a comparison like the Google search and the Google display, right? And seeing like what brought in. Maybe you guys don't know those terms, but you will if you talk to people like Brian and myself, right? And even our client was fascinated with seeing like this is somebody that is actively looking for something like us. And this is just being shown like on a YouTube video or somewhere there. Where they're not actively looking for us, but this still brought in this many clicks to our website. And so we're excited. We had almost 10,000 clicks to our website last month just from the ads. And so the client was very happy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that there's a huge difference between a lead that comes in through Google and a lead that comes in through Facebook.
Mm,
Because Facebook, you're kind of just picking people off the couch at 10 o'clock at night, right? They may or may not
right.
be interested in what you have, or at that split second, they're like, "Ooh, I need
Yeah.
that. I'm going to fill out that lead form." And then if you don't
Right.
get with them right away, they're going to keep
Yeah.
doom scrolling down the news feed. They're going to forget they even submitted their information, right?
Yes.
Whereas in Google,
Yes.
they're further along that customer journey. They're a problem where
Yeah.
they're searching for this problem I need
Yep.
solution,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's what makes them an inherently higher quality lead.
Yes. I mean, there's more intention of what they're
Hmm.
doing, exactly what you're saying. And I think that's why, but I always like to test it so that we have the data to show and say, hey, this is how it went on Meta and this is how it went there. That way, there's no question, right? I don't want to miss something or misspeak. And if they're open to spending a little bit of dough there, then we see. And then, I think you have to be comfortable with testing and analyzing. So that next month, you make your tweaks, you make your adjustments and you get a more effective ad.
Are your customers more B2B or B2C?
B2C. Well, you know what? Okay, no, yeah, my bigger clients B2C, but I have a lot of other clients that are B2B. So it is,
Okay.
I think for me, that's what's interesting too, is shifting the mindset. When we write the ads or we're looking at data and we're looking at where people are coming from and are they really a B or are they really a C? You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
yes.
So
Both.
are your B2C, are they more like local service type of businesses, or are they like product or
Hmm.
e-commerce companies?
Yeah, they're local services. So I have one restaurant that actually is more of a local community driven restaurant. And then another restaurant is actually based on tourism. And their restaurant does not get hardly any local traction because it's just not a desired restaurant for locals, but it's a very well desired for tourists that are coming into the islands. And so it's important to know things like that, right? Because that's where you say, hey, okay, we want to make sure when we spend our money, they're not coming from here because it's not really going to drive the sales that we're what we're looking for.
If you have a new client coming in on a smaller budget,
Hmm.
smaller service provider business, do you have kind of like a basic package or like a starter where it's like, we know you need a website, so let's do
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
then do you manage their Google business profile or do you do Facebook management? What's
Yeah.
the first few steps look like with a smaller client?
So I think we really do sit down, have a conversation, and we see what their biggest needs are. And then I tell them, hey, these are things that could really help your business, whether it's me or not. And, this is where I told you earlier, right? I know some businesses just need a little bit of help. And so sometimes I say, hey, what is your budget? And if it's in my bandwidth at that time to offer them help for a month so that they can kind of get to a better place where guess what? They make money because we brought them in sales and then they can pay us a little bit more. Definitely willing to do that. I don't know if
Okay.
that's right business management there, Brian, but it's our kuleana, as we say in Hawaii. It's our right as a business owner to kind of do what we want with our business, and that's one of the things that I do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere, right? And if you're a very small business or you're sub seven figures or you're brand new, there are some basics that you have to have in place. And let's be honest, the 9.5 out of 10 of these new entrepreneurs or younger entrepreneurs, they don't
Yeah.
know what they don't know. And they weren't brought up
Right.
as marketers. They don't know about Google
Right.
profiles or how to design a
No.
website or the importance
Yeah.
of the back end SEO. So
Yes.
it's vitally important to work with someone like you so that
Yeah.
they get a leg up in the game, but so many
Hmm.
people just don't know where to start.
Yes, 100%. I just led a workshop in Atlanta last week. It was just marketing for the people that don't have a big team, right? And it's exactly that. And the first thing that I had said is, look, you don't know what you don't know, but today you're going to walk out with a little bit more knowledge so you can be guided and make better decisions in what you do want to spend your money on to help market your business.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So, what are some of the tools that you use in your business to either help their client relationship
Yeah.
or maybe it's a specific advertising platform? What do the tools look like for you?
Okay, so one of my favorites obviously is Google Analytics. It's a free tool, you guys, it's free. And it's one of the first questions I ask every single client that comes in. Internal teams, I love using Notion and it's just kind of what I and I think I love Notion because you create how you want your dashboard yourself. And maybe that's like my crazy little mind. I love using Zapier for automation purposes and kind of helping save yourself some time, right? And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
clients that are like, I don't know what you mean by automation. What does this mean? Email software tools, or HubSpot, Kit. I mean, with the bigger companies I've used, we have some interesting like restaurant specific type of tools. And so it's been cool to use theirs and then use that as like hey, I use Pop Menu or I use ZenReach to work with this client, and if that's something you want to do, we at least have a direction for you in your industry and what everybody else is using. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, my,
Mm-hmm.
my iPhone, I mean, that's like the best tool right there. I think if you're starting very, very small, you don't have to have all the fancy things, right? I've done things where I've gone to my client and I brought my fancy camera. I bought my fancy and we did a photo shoot for them so we could run a campaign. And we loved using my iPhone better than we did my fancy camera. It was just so I think sometimes it doesn't have to be the most expensive tool is what I'm trying to say. So I could go on and on. I mean, my webcam up here is one of my favorites. I have a second monitor that's portable and I love taking that with me when I travel. And I think the most important one really is my laptop. It's what I do a lot of my business on. And again, I can work at a coffee shop, or like I said, I was in a workshop in Atlanta last week. This bad boy came with me, and I was still be able to conduct meetings, assist clients, and create some of the campaigns that we had going. That was not going to stop just because I went out of town. to do a
Mm-hmm.
workshop. So,
So you mentioned working with restaurants. Can you kind of give us a basic framework for what you do for restaurants? And I know because the restaurant industry is so
yeah.
fluid. Are you
Hmm.
like helping them create offers every week or every month and then putting them
Yeah.
on XYZ platform? What does a framework look like for that?
Yeah. So it kind of varies, but normally they'll have some kind of an offer. But the framework usually starts with us like, hey, what's this month going to be about? I share with them what's kind of happening in the world. So that way they can jump on a trend or, oh, it's National, hot dog day. Like we have the best hot dog. Let's create a campaign to just push it. You know what I mean? And we start with the planning. And, you have to work with your chef and the team to make sure when you put in something new and special, they're like, oh, we're going to work double hard today. Right. And so
Mhm.
sometimes the marketing person's not well liked, right? Because you're creating things. But for the most part, where I come in is I share ideas, but then I also listen to their ideas and kind of explain how we can best market it by either email marketing or internal table tents or poster boards or ads. The owner kind of decides from there, okay, let's try this, this, and this. And then we evaluate and then we move forward. Because I manage most of the websites for the restaurants that I have, they're all connected, right? So whatever we decide here, we then say, okay, make sure this is on the website because this is where we're going to be landing for information or to buy or to make a reservation. And just kind of making sure all the things are connected and the loop is closed. So there's never a question that we missed the mark on something. Well, you put all your effort here to kind of drive people there. And if that's not ready and optimized, you kind of miss the mark and they don't get what the goal was, which was to sell 100 hot dogs.
Do you guys talk about specific benchmarks that they try to hit with each campaign?
Yeah, I think since, with one of my biggest ones, we've actually kind of like they have financial goals, but we really targeted like saying, hey, this was a campaign that we did last year. What are some benchmarks that we want to create here so that we can evaluate it this year? And we'll say, of the specials, how many were sold? Here's our goal. So that then that takes it to their internal team, right? Hey, we're pushing. Maybe the managers are going to do those, if you've ever worked in a restaurant, you've come and you're like, there's a game today, we got to sell XYZs, and then I win like a free dinner at the end of the night, right, of my shift.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes that far just to help us meet the goals. So yes, we do create benchmarks so then the operations team can take it and kind of create what they need to do as far as their efforts internally to make sure their team is pushing the right items.
Do you guys utilize AI much in your business?
We do. It's funny actually. My what one of my restaurant clients has just incorporated AI into their phone reservation system, and they've had it so it's automated so that when somebody calls, one, we don't miss a call, and two, it can actually text or send them to booking a reservation, which is where we get into automation talk, right? And we've set little parameters and goals there so that we are sending them to the right place and hopefully getting them closer as we talk about funnels to our end result, which is, normally it's booking a reservation, right? Because if they book a reservation, they're going to come in and they're going to spend some money. So, and then we obviously use AI just to kind of help talk about frameworks or ideation or things like that. And I think it's made us more efficient. It's not replaced this human part of what we do, but I think because you're working with AI and you realize it's your ideas and it's just kind of working it through. So I am a big fan of it. The conference I was just at last week, we talked about it. If you think you're not going to use AI, your business is going to be left because AI is like everywhere right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am a big proponent. I loved when my client came, he's like, whoa, I used ChatGPT for the first time. And he was so excited. And he just, he's 65 and he's like, did you know it could do these things? Anyway, so yes,
Yeah.
big fans of AI.
All right. Awesome. Well, that's probably a good place to land the plane here. Selena, thank you so much for joining us and
Yeah.
sharing your knowledge today. I want to make sure that anybody out there listening, if they want to get a hold of you or
Yeah.
learn more about you from you, maybe work with you, what's the best place to do that?
Yeah, so come to my website, www.thehaoli.com, and that's HAULI. Or you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are my two favorite places to hang out. Just Google Selena Conmackie and you'll find me. I promise.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much again, and best of luck to you the rest of this year.
You too.